Okay, so this is the second part of the tutorial which looks at writing the code for your race car game. So you'll see in the right hand part of this window, I've actually got the code that we need to write. And I'm going to step you through this so that you understand each of the blocks and how it works to create the game. So what we need to start off with is up here, we've got obviously go and stop buttons. So we need to tell the game that when I click the green flag, I want it to start. So we're going to go into the events panel. There's a whole heap of panels here with a range of different actions that you can code into your Scratch program. It's pretty amazing what you can do. So we're just going to use a couple of these today, but would encourage you to extend yourself and see what you can actually make on Scratch. So we're going to use events to start off with. So you'll see at the top there's a when we click the green flag. So we're going to drop and drag, and it just works of like a block system. So the blocks just click into each other. So when I click my green flag, what do I want it to do? I want my car to wait. So I'm going to go to the control panel, and I'm going to drop and drag the wait option because I don't want it to start straight away. So I'm going to put in 5, you can put in 10, you can put in 2, whatever you want to do in terms of waiting before the game starts. I then want to make sure that I'm starting my car where it is. So I want to make sure that here you can see that it's telling it where to go. And it's doing this by going through the X and Y axes. So you'll notice that if I hover over any part of my image down here, it actually tells me what it is. So if you don't know what they are, you can find them by doing that. So what I'm going to look at is finding the center of my race car, and you can see it's 2 and 105. You'll see in the panel already, it's already put in where it thinks it's placed. So I'm just going to drop and drag that one in, and I want it to be starting to be pointing in a 90 degree at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to drop and drag that one in so that it's exactly where it should be. So once I've done that, I need to access some data, and what that means is that will allow me to create my scoring system. Now you won't have this panel that appears on mine, so what you'll need to do is you actually need to make a variable. So a variable is something that looks at, if this happens, then this happens. So we're creating our own score system, and then we'll be able to edit that so that we can deduct a point each time it touches the background. So I'm going to call that score. Now this will say I've already got it in place, so I might call it total score. Okay, and you'll get that little window pop up. So you'll notice that if it's not appearing at the top of your screen, you can move it wherever you want. Just make sure this little tick box is on, and then you've got some blocks that you can add in. So I want it to set the score starting off with to 100. You could have it the other way. It might start at 0, and every time you come off the track, you earn a point. That's up to you. So it's starting at 100. Now what I need to do is actually control the movement of the car and tell it what to do. So you'll notice over here, I've used a loop. So in Scratch, they have a forever block. And what that means is anything within that forever block will keep going until you tell it to stop. So that means that it'll keep the car moving and it'll keep going until you get to the finish line, essentially. So going into the control panel, I'm going to drop in a forever loop, and I want it to basically say to my car that every time you move, I want you to move 2 steps. So I'm going to grab a motion move block. You might experiment here and put in 5, or put in 10, or put in 1 just to see what it does. I really encourage you to run and test your code as you go to see what the effect is. So the car's going to move 2 steps. And what I want it to do is if it touches the green background or whatever background you've got, I want it to stop. I want it to go back to its start position, and I want it to deduct 1 point. So to do that, I need to bring in some sensing blocks, which you'll see over here. Very similar to the Edisons. When they sensed the black line, they then did something as a reaction to that. So I'm going to bring in an if statement. So if this happens, then this will happen. So I'm going to drop that just underneath the move. And I'm going to drop in a touching color. So this one just goes in that little shape there. So if my car touches, so I want to select the color box, and you can see as I go around it changes color. So if it touches green, then I want it to wait. So back to the control panel and pop that in there. And then I want it to go back to where it originally started. So I'm just copying this code up here. So I'm putting back in the original place and the original point in direction. Okay. When it's doing that, I want it to deduct 1 point. So I'm going to go back to data and go to change. So I want it to change the total score by -1. You could do it -10, whatever you want to do for your point system. So that's telling it if it touches green, it waits, it goes back to the original position, and it takes a point away. Pretty simple. So now what I want to do is that when it gets around the racetrack and I get to the finishing line, I want to stop. So much in the same way, another if statement needs to go in. So if the race car touches yellow, so using those sensing options, so I'm going to put exactly the same in, but this time, so I'm going to click on the color box, I want it to be yellow. Okay, so if it touches yellow, then I want it to stop. So back to the control panel, and I'm going to place stop in there. Okay, and it's going to keep doing that each time I reset the game. So now what I need to do is I actually need to code using the arrows to control the car, so the movement in the car. So you'll notice down here I've got separate lines of code, so they don't have to be built into one. You can have the same operation of code in one window. So you'll see again I've got a event panel. So when I do this, so when I press the left arrow, so I'm going to drop and drag this one, and I'm going to do that twice because I want left and right arrows to be operational. And I'm going to put in, so one's going to be right arrow and one's going to be left arrow. Okay, so when I click my right arrow, what I want it to do, I want the car to turn. You'll notice that pre-programmed in here is 15 degrees. Mix it up. See what it does at 5 degrees. See what it does at 30 degrees. So have a go in applying some of those math skills to see how much movement you get when you click that arrow. So I'm going to drag these in. Okay, and that's my coding done. So I'm just going to delete this one so it doesn't get confused. And now what I should be able to do is I should be able to try out my game. So when I click this green arrow, let's see what happens. Okay, so it started after 5 seconds, which you saw there. Okay, and I hit the green. So it restarts, and I hit the green, and it restarts, and I hit it again. So you'll start to see that as I navigate round through using my keys, and it will stop at the yellow. Okay, so it's deducted a point each time I've hit the green, and it's finished at the finish line. So that's how you complete that tutorial. It might be something worth looking at the Scratch website for ideas, or coming up with your own way to create and code a game for whatever purpose, for your goal task possibly. But that's it in a nutshell.